Warning: this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners. Due to the graphic nature, listener discretion is advised.
Keep the demon inside me. Keep the demon inside me. Keep the demon inside me.
Welcome from wherever you are. This is The Demon Inside with your host, John Venom. If you want to review a different episode of The Demon Inside, you can find them on Spotify or Anchor. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. A new episode will come out every Monday. And now to our show.
Keep the demon inside me.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to The Demon Inside. On today's episode of The Demon Inside, I'll be talking about two children that were killed in the most horrendous way. A 3-year-old named Michael and a 14-month-old Alexander were drowned by their mother, Susan Leah Smith. Susan Leah Smith was born September 26, 1971. She's an American woman who was convicted of murdering her two sons, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alexander, in 1994 by drowning them in a South Carolina lake. Smith rarely had a stable home life growing up. Her father died by suicide when she was 6 years old, and Smith herself attempted suicide at age 13. Her mother then married Beverly Russell, which is a man, a member of the local chapter of the Christian Coalition, who later was revealed to have molested Smith when she was a teenager. One newspaper claimed that sexual relations between them had continued until 6 months before the murders. After graduating from high school in 1989, Smith made a second attempt to kill herself after a married man she was in a relationship with ended their affair. She married David Smith and they had 2 sons. The relationship was rocky due to mutual allegations of infidelity, and they separated several times. The case gained international attention because of Smith's false claim that a black man had kidnapped her children. Smith ran from the scene of the crime to the nearest house and begged them to call the police. This is the 911 call.
Yes, ma'am. There's a lady that come up that door, and some guy jumped into a red light with her car with her 2 kids in it, and he took off, and she got out of the car here at our house.
The call came from a house along Lockhart Highway in rural Union County near the entrance to John D. Long Lake.
And he's got the kids?
Yes, ma'am, in her car. And she's real hysterical, and I just decided I need to call law and get them down here.
The woman was Susan Smith, who'd gone to the nearest house after she said she'd fled the man who took her car and children in the direction of Chester, South Carolina.
What kind of car is it? We need to know something.
We're trying to ask her now. A Mazda Protege. What color was it? A burgundy Mazda Protege.
Get them going, Pam. I got 2 kids. Okay.
The dispatcher sent out 2 cars, one to the house and another down the highway in pursuit of the car.
Union 105.
105, go ahead.
Said it was a black male driving a burgundy Protege.
Affirmative, 105.
He had 2 juveniles with him.
105, from what I understood, these were small children. These are her children, and she jumped out of the car, and he took the car with the children, and he's headed toward Chester.
I'll get back. Then the sheriff, Howard Wells, heard about the call and quickly got a fix on the urgency of the case before him.
Union 100.
100, go ahead.
Are the victim and the suspect in this call the same family?
100, from what I gathered by the call, they are not. This is a stranger that had jumped in the lady's car at a red light, and she jumped out.
Simple.
After the 911 call and the news media got interested, Susan Smith and her husband David, who were separated at the time, started to come out on different news medias and giving interviews. This is one of those interviews.
Right now, we want to go to Union to get the story firsthand from Susan Smith and her husband, David. Susan, how are you doing this morning?
Doing okay. Very little sleep last night, but I'm okay.
There was some news yesterday and some promising leads in this case. How are you coping with the disappointment of the news from yesterday?
I was running around my house yesterday morning all excited. I really thought that they had really found something that was, I really thought they had found one of my children, and when I got to the courthouse and found out that the lead had disintegrated or there was nothing there, I was very devastated, very disappointed. Got my hopes up and was let down, but I haven't given up hope. That was maybe one of many disappointments, but maybe the next gonna be right.
David, where do you think your children are?
I have no idea.
Do you hold out hope that they're still alive?
Yes, we both do, very strongly.
This is going to be a little bit difficult to talk about, but even folks in Union wonder about the both of you. They wonder if all of the truth of this story has been told. Susan, what do you say to that?
I say that on my behalf, the truth has been told. I know right here what the truth is. I can see from their side why they have to do the things they have to do. But the Lord and myself both know the truth. I did not have anything to do with the abduction of my children. I don't think any parent could love their children any more than I do, and I'd never even think about ever doing anything that would harm them. And yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say it's very painful to have the finger pointed at you when it's your children involved.
David, this is as equally a difficult question. Are you satisfied that that's true?
But what's true?
That Susan has told everything she knows?
Yes. I believe my wife totally.
Susan, we're led to believe that investigators spent quite a bit of time at your place yesterday. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
And what do you think they were looking for?
I have no idea. I granted them permission to search my house under the impression that was one of the normalities of the investigation. As far as what they were looking for, what they took, I have no knowledge of that.
David, the question that arises in people who have been following this so closely, and certainly you have to know how much emotion that this has generated across the country, is why someone who would be interested in carjacking or stealing a car would want to continue to take a couple of little kids with them. Have you been able to fathom that, or could you think of why someone would want to kidnap a couple of little kids unless there was some ransom or something involved?
No, I have no idea why the suspect why he even took the children and why he has not released them yet. We have no knowledge whatsoever.
Susan, what do you think?
I think it takes a very sick and emotionally unstable person to be able to take two beautiful children like that, to be able to keep them from their parents, to keep them from where they do belong. I can't imagine why anybody would want to do such a thing as what has happened.
David, what message do you have for folks around the country who are watching right now?
That the American people, that this nation, that they don't give up on Michael and Alex, that they continue to search for the vehicle, for the children, or for the suspect himself, and that they keep our family, me and my wife and our family, but especially Michael and Alex, in their prayers, and keep searching until they are found.
David and Susan, we thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
The police knew that after the second day, they knew Susan Smith was guilty, but proving it was a little bit harder. They started to wear her down little by little by doing interviews with her until the 9th day. On the 9th day, she confessed to killing her 2 kids. The police made a statement to the news. This is that statement.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael 3 and Alexander 14 months. The vehicle, a 1990 Mazda, driven by Smith, was located late Thursday afternoon in Lake John D. Long near Union. 2 bodies were found in the vehicle's back seat. Identities are pending an autopsy. Charges against Smith will be signed by Union County Sheriff Howard Wells. 16th Circuit Solicitor Thomas Pope said Thursday a bond hearing will be held at 10 a.m. at the Moss Justice Center in York before Circuit Judge Henry Floyd. Smith is incarcerated at an undisclosed location.
Did she confess? Did she tell you where the car was, Sheriff?
And as a matter of fact, she did tell them where the car was. It was closer to the embankment than they had assumed. The vehicle had been driven in, and according to Susan Smith, she was going to drown with the kids. This was her next attempt at suicide by taking herself and her kids with her. She talks about how she drove down the ramp and then stopped, and then drove again and stopped. She watched them drown from the side embankment. She watched the car go into the water, tilted over, went down into the water, and did nothing. A forensics recreation team did the same thing with the same kind of car in the same place, and it took 6 minutes for the car to go under. So that means Susan Smith was waiting 6 minutes until the car went under with her children. She had 6 minutes that she could have changed her mind, but didn't.
Susan Smith is probably the best-known case of a mother killing her children. She sent her 2 boys to the bottom of a lake locked in a car. But why?
This is the solution they come up to, and this is the only thing that they see that could be the answer.
Dr. Fricker deals with abuse cases and says stress plays a big role.
Could be the kind of problem that they're being faced with that moment. It could have something to do with their children, if they're having trouble with their children, or if someone's telling them that something can't work because of their child.
Dr. Fricker says just like stress, many psychiatric problems, including depression, also play a role.
Because the more depressed they are, the fewer problem-solving abilities they have.
Dr. Fricker says there are often warning signs, but nothing is ever certain.
Lots of mothers out there have psychiatric problems, and lots of mothers are under stress, and lots of mothers aren't going to kill their children.
The reason I brought up Susan Smith's killing her kids at this time is because the anniversary of her being charged for the 2 murders of her children is actually November 4th. During these days right now, between October 25th and November 4th, they were actually looking for her children, and they thought that this black man had stolen her car with the children in it. She was coming out on news media as much as she could, professing that she had adamantly and truthfully had told everybody that this man had came and taken her children, when in fact she knew she was lying about everything that happened. She knew that her children had already died. There are some interviews out there where she says that I loved them, and she starts talking about them in a past tense, which is what law enforcement started looking at, and that's why she became the focus of their investigation. So this crime for me has what I would think would be a demon that was influencing her for reasons that we don't know. But the prosecution tried to say what it was that she was talking to a man who she wanted to be with, and he did not want to be with her because she had children. He wrote a letter and sent it to her saying that he was sorry for the way he felt, and he may never change his mind about having children, and that she should look for somebody better, somebody that deserves her. But in her mind, all she could think about was that he said that he didn't want children. So I remember hearing about this case in '94. I saw the news feeds and everything that was going on, and I couldn't imagine how a mother would do this to her own kids. So this might have been one of the starting moments that I realized that there was a demon inside somebody actually pulling the strings, whether it be influential or physical or actual possession. And I thought long and hard about the Susan Smith case, and during that time I thought about a folklore that I remember from childhood. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Welcome back to The Demon Inside. Of course, we hear about different kinds of stories, but this story is La Llorona, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it, especially since it's been on film lately. La Llorona is called the Weeping Woman in English, and when I was a kid, anytime we were near a river or a lake or a stream, this story was always told around the campfire. And the story goes that if you hear this weeping woman or this crying woman anywhere near you, it's a bad omen, or it's her coming to find her children. So the way this story starts is with a young woman named Maria, and Maria is a very beautiful woman from a very small town where she has gone out, and danced the night away with men or whatever. And she meets a very wealthy landowner as he's passing through the town. So this man woos her and starts to date her, and eventually they get married. So Maria actually has 2 kids, and what happens is, as they get older, the man starts to cheat on her with younger women. So as it goes, he leaves her for a younger woman, and he disappears pretty much weeks or months at a time, when one day he comes back to the town with his lover, and Maria sees him, but he doesn't talk to her, he doesn't tell her anything. He goes and sees his 2 kids. So Maria, in a fit of rage after he leaves with his younger wife, she takes the kids and drowns them in a river nearby their house. And with the currents going as fast as they are down the river, when she comes to her senses, it's already too late. They've already gone, and she can't find them. So endless days and nights of her trying to find the kids turns into weeks, and she's not eating, she's not drinking, her white dress is getting black and ripped. She's getting skinny, when all of a sudden she falls ill because of her depression, because of her sadness, because of her crying. She falls ill and she passes away. So after she died, the legend goes this way, that Maria is sent to heaven and is rejected by heaven because she no longer has her kids. So she is doomed to walk the earth trying to find her kids in order for her to get into heaven. She has grown desperate and actually will try to take other kids that look like her kids. And this was told to us by our parents, and it turned more into a warning, as if you don't do what you're told, or you don't come home when you're supposed to, or you don't call, or whatever. It turned into a punishment for the kids, a scare tactic, if you will, that you need to do as your parents say, or you're going to end up with La Llorona. The motherly nature of La Llorona's tragedy has been also compared to Cihuacahuatl, an Aztec goddess who was considered a deity of motherhood, but she is also considered a demon that devours filth or sin. Although she was sometimes depicted as a young woman, she is more often shown as a fierce, skull-faced old woman carrying the spears and shield of a warrior. Childbirth was sometimes compared to warfare, and the women who died in childbirth were honored as fallen warriors. The spirits of the Cihuacahuatl were thought to haunt crossroads at night to steal children. So this is the part of the show, again, where I do the logical, medical, and the spiritual. So the logical is that Susan Smith is a cold-hearted woman who decided to kill her kids for a man. And we've seen this throughout history, where women will kill their kids to please a man or to better themselves without their kids. And it's a very sad situation. It's a very sad thing, but it happens. With the medical, she could have been going through some type of postpartum psychosis. I mean, she just had a baby 14 months earlier. She could still be in that frame of mind. Also, she could have been medicated wrong, or she might have been taking pills, or she could have just been mentally unstable and nobody noticed. But for me, spiritually, it's really strange that this demon that has been killing kids throughout centuries hasn't been noticed, and it just keeps killing kids. It even killed kids way back that became the folklore of La Llorona, and now people see La Llorona everywhere, the weeping woman. There's basically video of ghost women in white all over the world. So is it possible that maybe one of these ghosts might have gotten into her, or maybe it was the actual demon that jumped into her and she decided to kill her kids for whatever reason? Because to be honest with you, demons don't need a reason to kill. Demons just need a host. And I think as long as you're open to it, anybody can be a host. You just have to be strong enough to say no. Don't forget to subscribe to The Demon Inside on Spotify, Anchor, or any other podcast directory, or through our website, anchor.fm/The Demon Inside. A new episode of The Demon Inside comes out each Monday. Let us know what you think and join the conversation on our Demon Inside Facebook page and on Instagram. We thank you for listening and hope you'll join me next Monday for a new Demon Inside. If you enjoyed this episode, tell your friends. I'm John Venom. We'll see you next time, if I don't get possessed. The Demon Inside was created and written by James Porter. It's a production of Venomous Entertainment. Theme music, Demon Inside, is on the album Conjure One by Reese Fulber. Background music was created by Lucas King.